Hi guys, this is Ranish Malhan from Pixcompose. Let's move forward in the Photoshop for beginners session. So today we will have a look on some retouching tools and some adjustment layers. We will see what are the adjustment layers and some color correction tools. Plus we will have a look on little bit on the 𝗘𝗵𝟫 tools. So let's get started. And if you want to join us in the Hindi sessions, then you can join us on the 3 days of the week, Tuesday, Thursday and Saturday on same time at 9 p.m. according to Indian Standard Time. So before moving forward, I want to discuss, do you have any doubts regarding the last sessions? If so, you can ask me in the live chat on the YouTube. Till then, I will tell you what we are going to do today. So we will try to do some projects today. We will try some retouching tools on some images. We will try to composite this image in this session. We will try to enlarge the eyes of this kitchen. Also, we will try to change the mood with some adjustment layers and some color correction tools in the Photoshop. So let's get started. Firstly, I will start with this. You can get all the images from the link provided in the description. You can download the folder from there and it have all the images in it. So firstly, I will open the image which I have used in this example. So here is the image. Bring it in the Photoshop like this. So here we are going to change the mood of this image and we will understand how the color correction tools work. So for that I can apply a color correction from there. I can go to the image menu and here you can see the adjustments. Here we have all the adjustments. But if we use the adjustments from here, we cannot edit them later. So let's see what I am trying to say. If I want to use the color balance here, I can click on it and make some changes here. Like I want to change this tone to little bit of cyan, the midtones, and here I want to change it towards the blue. Now if I commit the change, you can see we have nothing, so that means we can change it later. But if I press Ctrl Z is for undo. Now if I go here you can see a little icon. This is for adjustments layer. If I click here, these are the same adjustments available here in the image menu. So if we use the adjustments from here, I can go to the color balance if I want to use it. Now you can see we have the midtones, we have the shadows and we have the highlights. We can edit them separately. We can do the same from here. If I select the image, if I go here, go to the adjustments, and if I select the color balance, you can see we have the same options here. I can select the highlights, I can select the midtones and I can select the shadows. Likewise, I can do this from here. So if I select the midtones, if I change it like this, you can see I can again go back to this layer and again make some changes. Now if I want to restrict these changes to certain portion of this image, what I can do, I can select this mask. Let's talk about this mask. What is the mask? Basically in the real life, as we use a mask to cover our eyes, to cover our face, like that, this mask works. So the black portion of this mask will hide the area. Like I want to hide the adjustment layer from here, then I can select the brush tool B. B is the shortcut key for the brush tool, and here at this position you can find the brush tool, and if I use it with the black selected in the foreground, if I start painting here with the left mouse button, you can see the effect of the adjustment layer from the portion where I have painted is gone, like this. So here you can see we have painted with the black. You can notice the black portion here. The black portion on the mask is hiding the content of the layer, and the white portion of the mask is showing the portion of the layer. So if I want to hide the adjustment layer from this portion, I can paint it from here. You can see, you can notice the black color here, and here we have nothing. This part of the image, this part of the adjustment layer is hidden. So do you have any doubts till now? If not, let's move forward. So now if we talk about, we want to change the mood of this layer, I will delete this. So now I will use, let's see how the selective colors work, or let's start from the basic. The basic one is brightness and contrast. Let's see how the brightness and contrast works in the Photoshop. So we have the adjustment layer, which is brightness and contrast. I can increase the contrast from here, brightness from here. I can decrease it like this. I can increase the contrast. So this is the very simple tool, but now we will start seeing some advanced tools. So for that I am going to delete this, and here you can see we have levels and curves. Let's see how these tools work. These are very useful tools for the color correction. So I will go to the curves. So this is the curve tool. Basically this point denotes through the shadows, and this one, which is on the right top, this denotes through the highlights. And here we have the whites, where you can see the grid. This is the white point, and if I add a point here, this will affect the black color, or you can say blacks of the image. And here we have the midtone. What are the midtones? Midtone is the base color of the image. You can say the tone which is not a highlight or not a shadow, the basic natural tone. So if I move it, you can see we are affecting the midtones. If I change it, you can see we are affecting the blacks. And now if I move this one down, this one will affect the highlights. So where are the highlights in this image? The highlights are in the lights, because this is the night scene. If we want to see it properly, we need to open a day scene. For that, let's move to this image. So I am going to add a curves tool again, and now let's move the highlights down like this. You can see we have a very dull image. Now if I move this one, which is the shadow anchor, you can see we have increased the contrast too much, and the image is getting dull because we have reduced the highlights. So let's go back to the default position. For that I will click here. This will reset our adjustment layers. So in this case the curves adjustment. So we can adjust the colors with the curves tool like this. So we can bend it anyway. So if we go here, we know the primary colors of the image are red, green and blue. So we can adjust these channels individually. Like I want to decrease the red color in the image. For that, as we saw earlier, this one denotes to the shadows and this one denotes to the highlights and this one for the midtones. So basically if I decrease this slider, what it will do, it will decrease the red colors from the area where the red color value is too high. So it will decrease the red color from there. We can add some more points. Now if I want to increase the red color in the shadows, what I can do, I can add a point where we discussed there are some blacks. Now I will move this point upwards. Now you can see in the image where we have the blacks, there we have introduced the red color. So here we have some red color. Likewise, if I go to the green, I can do the same with it. I want to decrease it in the highlights. I can do that like this. And now I want to increase in the shadows. We can do like this. So these I am doing these for just for demonstration purposes. After that we will try to do some projects with this. We can also adjust the blue channel. We can increase it in the highlights. If we want to decrease it here, we can decrease it from here. So let's move forward. So now let's have a look on the curves. Let's have a look on the levels. So now the next one is levels. So how the levels work? The left one slider is denotes to the shadows. If I move it towards the right, you can see we are increasing the shadows like this. And if I move the right one, it denotes to the highlights. It will affect the highlights. I can move it to introduce some more highlights like this in the image. Now the center slider is for the midtones. Midtones, what are the midtones? We have discussed that. Midtones are the base colors. So let's move the slider. If I move it towards the shadows, you can see we are increasing the highlights, the brighter values in the image. We are introducing those. If I move it towards the right, you can see I am increasing the shadows here like this. Likewise, I can edit the separate channels like red one, green one and the blue one in the same way. I can move the slider like this. You can see we are changing the mood of the image with some simple sliders. You can see we have changed the image a lot with just some simple modifications. I can change the value of blue like this. So if I turn off this layer, you can see how much difference we have made in the image with just one single adjustment layer. So if we know that how the color correction tools or the adjustment layers work, we can introduce so many effects in the image with some simple techniques. Like if I select this one, and now if I go to the gradient tool, so G is the shortcut key for this. I can type that here, gradient tool. So G is the shortcut key which I have typed in the live chat. You can see that from here. So now if I want to make something interesting, I can use the gradient tool. At this time I have to select the layer mask. We know what is the layer mask and how it is work. So now we have the two colors. In the foreground I have black color, and in the background I have the white color. So let's see what we can do with it. I can just left click and start dragging it. Now release the left mouse button after some point. You can see we have introduced a double effect here. So if we talk about the gradient tool, I have 5 effects here. So first one is linear, like this one is linear. You can see that in the layer mask we have the linear effect. Here on the right we have the black, and on the left we have the white. But if I click on the second mode, which one is radiant gradient, so if I use it now, left click and start drag it to some extent and release the mouse, you can see now it's a radial effect. See in the layer mask, there you can see we have the radial effect. In the center we have the black, and around that we have the white color. We can flip that. In the options bar, if I click on the reverse, now if I fill it, you can see the center one. In the center we have the white color, and around that we have the black color. So if I turn off this layer now, you can see we are getting some good effect now. I can copy that. So we have the copied layer. Now what I want to do, I want to inverse the layer mask. For that I will press Ctrl I. Ctrl I will inverse the color of the layer. So with the layer mask selected, I have pressed Ctrl I. So I am typing the shortcut key in the description for the inverse effect. So you can find the shortcut key in the description, in the live chat, So now what I want to do, I want to change the effect here. I can select the layer one, copy, which we have copied. Now I can play with the channels here like we did earlier. You can see we are introducing blue pixels around the purple pixels. So we have combinations of two layers which are making this image dramatic. We can turn off the both layers. and see the effects individually. So to try this effect, you can download the images from the description. I would like you to follow along with me so that you can ask me doubts while we are discussing it. So now let's move to the another tool. At this time we will use the exposure tool, or yeah, let's go with the exposure tool. Basically, what is the exposure? If you use the camera, you know what is the exposure. Basically, if we increase the exposure, if we talk in the simple manner, we can see that we are introducing some brighter information in the image. So we are increasing some light information in the image. So this is the exposure. We can adjust a gamma correction here like this, and we can offset the exposure effect. Basically, what the offset will do? If we go back to the levels, we can see we have the midtones here. We can adjust the offset of the midtone, like I can move it to the left, I can move it to the right, so it is changing the effect. If we move it close to the highlight slider, you can see we are introducing some darker pixels, and if I move towards the left, you can see we are introducing some the brighter pixels. Likewise, if we use the exposure, if I move the offset, this will affect the midtones. Basically, this will affect the middle point of the exposure. You can say the midtones of the exposure. If I move it towards the right, you can see we are moving it towards the brighter side. That's why we are getting the dull image. If I move it towards the left, then you can see we are introducing some the darker side. So if I move way too far in the left, you can see we are having a very strong effect of the black pixels of the shadows. Now we are getting some smoother result if I move towards the 0 like this. So now let's move towards the vibrance. Basically, what is the vibrance? For that we have to know what is the saturation. So second slider is the saturation. Basically, what saturation do? For that I am going to open this palette. So this is the color palette. Here we have a mode hue, saturation and brightness. If I go to the saturation, you can see that if I increase it, you can notice on the right side we are getting some saturation. Basically, what is the saturation? Saturation is the purity of color. When we start mixing the the white pixels in the pure color, like right now we have the orange color, which is the pure one. So now if I start moving to add white pixels here, then we are going to lose the saturation. And when we reach to the 0, the pure white, at that time we will have the 0 saturation, which means we will have the black and white image. So let's see how it works. As I explained, this slider will works like that. So if I increase the saturation here, you can see we are getting a very brighter and very vivid information here. And if I decrease it, you can see we are getting a black and white image. Likewise, if I increase the vibrance, basically what is the vibrance? Vibrance will only affect on the pixels which have low saturation, which means which have low purity of color. So if I increase it, you can see it will increase the saturation of those part of the image which have very low saturation, like this. So this will majorly affect only those parts. I hope you understood that. If you have any doubts, you can ask me right away. I will answer those. So the next one, if I talk, is hue saturation. I will click here. So here you can see we have 3 sliders. These are very useful sliders. If I move the hue, what is the hue? We have talked earlier that the hue is the color. Basically, if I go here, you can see the first one we have selected right now is hue. The second one is saturation. Third one is brightness. So if I go to the hue, you can see we have hue here, starting from the red and ending to the red. If I move, you can see the hue is changing, which means the color is changing here in the left box. Likewise, if I go here and start moving this hue slider, you will see we are changing the colors in the image. Now the question arises that we have pink color here, but we are getting the bluer tones. Why is that? Because it is not painting in the image, it is adding the color to the base color. So the final result of the both colors after addition we are getting here. So but what if I want to colorize it? At that time I have to click here on the colorize. Now if I move the slider, you can see we are getting the color which we have on the hue slider, like this. So now let's move to the saturation. As we know, the saturation will increase the purity of color and decrease it. So if I increase the slider, you can see we are getting a very saturated image. Likewise, if I go to the lightness slider, here I can adjust the lightness of the color. If I increase it, you can see we are getting a white color. If I decrease it, we will get a black color, like this. Great. So if I want to adjust only one part of the image, what I have to do? For that I have to click here this slider, and now I have to click on that part or that color of the image. Like I want to change the yellow color, so I will click on the yellow color. So now here you can see this slider or this tool limited the colors which will get affected by this. So now if I change the color, you can see we are only affecting the yellow colors in the image and we are getting very good tone. We can mix and match with the help of layer mask. I can use the gradient tool. You can see on some positions we are getting the green tones, and at some portions we are getting the yellow tones. So we are getting, according to me, we are getting a very good result. If you have any doubt, you can ask me anytime. So let's move forward. If we go here, you can see we have reds, yellows, greens, cyans, blues and magentas. Basically, what are those modes? Basically, what we have done with this slider, we have limited the colors. These sliders will do the same. If I select the yellow, you can see we have limited to the yellows. If I select greens, you can see we have limited to the greens. Likewise, if I select blues, and we are limited to the blues. So these tools works like that, and we can use this tool only if I unchecked the colorize here. So in this way we can use this. And now let's move to the next tool, which one is color balance. So this tool is very good to use. We have lot of tools right now. So let's move to the color balance here. So here you can see we have the color balance. Now here we are affecting the midtones right now. We can change it to the shadows, we can change it to the highlights. Let's affect the highlights. Right now we can see that we have some highlights here where we have the lights. So let's affect those. So if I move this slider, yellow and blue slider, towards the blue, you can see we are introducing some blue colors in the highlights. We can add some cyans by moving this slider towards the cyans. And now we can move this slider towards the greens, or if we want we can move it to the magentas, however we like. So let's move to the midtones. We can adjust these like this. Like I want to change it to the cyan, and this one to the yellows, and let's move this one to the greens. This will make a cyan color. And now let's see the shadows. Let's introduce some warmer colors in the shadows. For that I will go to the reds, little bit of red, mix little bit blue, and now let's move towards the green like this. So now if we turn off this, we can see the changes here in the image. So let's move to the next tool. The next one is black and white. Basically with this tool we will create the black and white colors. We will introduce some black and white colors in this image. If we want to increase yellows, we know that we have yellows in the lights. If we increase it, you can see we are increasing the brightness of the yellow colors present in the image. We can increase the reds, we can decrease the blues to introduce some shadows, because we know that this is the night scene and the sky by default is blue. So when we reduce it, the cyan color, then we will get the darker tones. We can increase it if we want. So in this way we can adjust the black and white images. When we want to convert an image to the black and white mode, then we can adjust the values on the channels level. Basically we can adjust the reds, we can adjust the yellows. If I go back to the hue saturation layer, So this one is the hue saturation layer. Now if I want to introduce this black and white, you can see that we have the black and white image, but we cannot adjust the darkness values and the brightness values. For that I have to add a curves adjustment layer, but with this tool I can convert it to the black and white and adjust each channel individually very easily, like this. So let's move to the next tool. So here we will talk about the photo filter. If I turn off this, so we can use the photo filter. If you use the camera, you know that we have to add a filter there, mainly in the DSLR cam. So in the DSLR cams we have to add a separate adjustment there, which one is filter. Or you know that we have many filters in the phone cameras. So these filters will work like that. We can change the filter from here. Cooling filters, we have some cooling filters. We can add red colors, we can add orange colors to the image, yellows, cyans. We can increase the density of these colors, we can decrease the density of these colors. That's up to us. We can take the custom color if we click here, and now we can change the color to anything. Like I want this color for the filter. I can increase the effect, I can decrease the effect, that's up to me. So you can see that these are very good tools in the Photoshop. So let's move further. The next one we will talk is the gradient map. So let's talk about it. So what the gradient map will do, gradient map will add a gradient to the shadows and the highlights. So if I select it from here and now goes to the properties panel, click here. From now I can create a gradient. So here I have two gradients right now. The first one, the first color is black, which is affecting the darker tones. Basically the left side of every tool, whether it is the curves adjustment, whether it is the levels adjustment, or it is the gradient editor for the gradient map, this side will affect only the shadows and this side will affect only the highlights. So if I change the color here, add some darker color like this one. Now add some brighter color here. Like this one. You can see we can add any color here. I can change the color like this. You can see we have stylized the image very easily. I can reduce the opacity of the color to limit its effect on the image. I can add some more sliders here like this to add some more information, to add some more color information in the image like this. So in this way we can stylize the image very easily with the gradient map tool. So let's move to the next tool which we want to talk today. So turn off this. Now the next tool about which we are going to talk is selective color. Click here and now go here. Here you can see we have reds, yellows, greens, cyans, blues and magentas, and then we have whites, naturals and blacks. What are the naturals? Naturals basically are the midtones in the image. So if we have selected the red colors, then we are affecting only red colors. Here we can add some cyans to the reds. We can decrease the magentas if we want. You can see it is affecting. If I drag it towards the right, it is increasing the magenta color in the reds. If I move it towards the left, it is decreasing the magenta colors. I can decrease the yellow color from here. You can see we are getting some pink tones because we are mixing cyan and magentas in the reds. That's why we are getting this. So now if I click here and select the yellows, I can increase the cyans again if I want. I can decrease the magentas or increase it. I can decrease the yellows from here. Now you can see we are having pure pink color in the lights. So now if I go to the whites, I can introduce some colors in the highlights or in the white areas of the image. I can add the color like this. I can change the brightness of the color by this, moving the black slider. Let's move to the naturals. Naturals are the midtones of the image. So if I move it towards the cyan, you can see we are getting some cyan tones in the midtones. If I decrease it, you can notice that we are getting some good tones. We can decrease the yellows here to introduce some blue tones. So now I can play with the black tones. If I move it towards the right, you can notice that we are introducing some darker tones in the midtones. If I decrease it, you can see we are getting some brighter tones. So I think this one is right for this image. So now let's move to the blacks. Let's see how it will work. So I am going to increase some cyans here. You can see we are getting a very good finish here. Now let's adjust some magentas. Now adjust some yellows. I am increasing the yellows little bit, about +2. Now we can adjust the blacks here. If we move towards the right, we are introducing some darker tones. If we move them towards the left, we are introducing some dull tones, which means some brighter tones. So this value is good for me. So now let's move further. So at this time what I want to do, let's move to the another image. Here we will see some retouching tools. So for that what I want to do, so here are some retouching tools. The first one is spot healing brush tool. For that I am going to open an image. This one, the link to these images are provided in the description. You can download these images from there. There is a single link which contains all these images. So firstly I will open an image of my choice for this project. I think I have forgot to add this, so let's add this one in the project. Copy image, paste. So now you have the image. So I am bringing it in the Photoshop. So here is our image. So let's see how the retouching tools work. So the first one is spot healing brush tool. For that I am going here, and here we have the first tool, which is 𝗍𝗲𝗽𝗁 brush tool. Click here. The shortcut key for this is J. You can select these tools by pressing the J key. 𝗍𝗲𝗽𝗁 brush tool. I have typed shortcut key for this tool in the live chat. You can find that from there. So now, after selecting this tool, what we have to do, we have to zoom in to the part where we want to remove something. So here we can see a pimple. So there we can notice a pimple. Right now, if your brush size is small, you can increase it by pressing the open bracket key, the right bracket key. If I press it, you can see we are increasing the size, or I can press the left bracket key to decrease it if my brush size is larger than that. So I am typing the shortcut key for this. The left bracket key is to reduce the brush size, and the right bracket key to increase the brush size. Or you can increase or decrease the brush size from here. In the options bar, you can go here and click this button, this small button, and from here you can increase the brush size or decrease the brush size according to your need. And from here we can increase or decrease the hardness of the brush, or from here we can increase or decrease the spacing between the two strokes of the brushes. So I can decrease it because I want to decrease it. Now I can brush this area with the left mouse button. You can see we have brushed this area. Now when I release the left mouse button, you can see the effect. The pimple is gone now. Likewise, I can paint here, and we can clean the skin easily. Like this. So in this way we can clean the image very easily. So let's move on to the next tool. For that I am going to close this file. So the next file will be this. I am going to bring it in the Photoshop. So the next tool is healing brush tool. The first one is 𝗍𝗲𝗽𝗁 brush tool. The second one is the healing brush tool. I am going to select it. Now what I will do, I am having the same brush right now which I had while I have selected the 𝗍𝗲𝗽𝗁 brush tool. So now at this time, when I click here on the image, you can see it is asking for a source point. Basically the previous tool is calculating from the surroundings to cover the area, to clean the area, but now we are getting an option to add something from another image or from another part of the image. So for that I have to press Alt. Like I want to brush this tree here. For that I have to go there on this tree. Now I have to hold Alt. You can see when I have hold the Alt key, you can see the cursor changes. Now when I click here, we have selected the source. At this time I will start painting like this. Now when I release after painting, you can see we are getting a very good thing to work. So now I can select this source, I can paint it here. Likewise I can select this one and paint it here. We can clean that from here. You can see we have painted the road here. We have to clean it. For that I am going to healing brush tool and now reduce the size. Hold Alt key and take the sample from here and start painting here like this. And now you can see we have cleaned it up very easily. It was very easy to clean it up. Now let's move to the next tool. But before that I have to tell you that we have many options here in the options bar. Like we can select the brush size from here, we can reduce it, we can adjust the spacing from here, we can change the sample of the area from where we can select the samples. Like right now we have selected current and below. Like if I have a layer above, this one is empty, so if I select the current layer and now start taking the source from here and start painting, you can see we are getting nothing because nothing is in the layer 1. But when I select current and below, basically what is saying that we are selecting the current and the below layers, not a single layer, it is selecting the below layers. Doesn't matter how much are there. So now at this time if I click Alt, now if I start painting, you can see we are getting this very easily on a different layer. I can turn off this. By this technique we also preserved our original image without affecting it. Now I can erase it, the extra part. I can erase the extra part. For that I can use the eraser tool, which is this one. Now I can increase the size with the right bracket key. I have mentioned the shortcut key in the live chat. So in this way we can work with this. I have removed it from here, I have cleaned it up. Now let's move on to the next tool, which one is patch tool, but we will talk about it in the next session, which is going to be on the Wednesday. So let's meet on the Wednesday. If you have any doubt in today's session, you can ask me here or on my tweet or on my social handles. You can get links to my all social handles in the description, and you can download all these files from the description. So in the next session we will cover the patch tool, the content aware move tool, and the red eye tool. Also we will cover this manipulation. We will create this manipulation with the moon image. Also we will enlarge the kitchen eyes very easily. We will see two ways to do that, and both the ways will be different. So let's meet in the next session. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe our channel and do press the bell icon. Thanks for watching. Let's move in the next session. Thanks.